Hey, it's Annie Margarita Yang, and today I'm here in Bryant Park in New York City, and it is so nice to be back in my hometown. I just want to show you what's going on. There's like this little pigeon. Oh, isn't that so cute? And I really miss being around this Bryant Park area because, I don't know, it just feels like home because this whole area here, I would hang out here in my last 2 years of high school when I was really depressed. And I would come here every Friday after school and I would head over to what used to be called the Mid-Manhattan Library. It's not called that anymore, before it got renovated. And I would head over there and I would borrow library books, and then after going there I would come here and I would read books. Anyway, it's been a whole 12 years. I've come a long way. It's just so nostalgic. So today, I want to talk to you about how to avoid wasting money on the wrong photographer for your career. The thing about photography is, one of the things that I advise people to do is you need a nice looking headshot, a professional photo for your LinkedIn profile to really convey your professionalism and your personality. One of the things that people do is that they think an iPhone photo will suffice, or worse, right? They do spend the money on a photographer, but then what they did was they actually wasted their money on the wrong photographer. And here's what I mean. They go on Google and then they just type, like, let's say I live in Boston, right? Photographers in Boston. And then they'll open like maybe the first 5 links, look at their websites and go like, well, that price is good. Oh yeah, those photos look nice. And then they book a session. Their photos don't come out looking the way they expected, and their photos don't achieve the goals that they wanted it to achieve, which is, in our case, because you're watching this channel, it's for you to upgrade, to up-level your career, to get promoted, to go to that next level. And for that, you really need like more professional headshots. Just hiring a family photographer, for instance, someone who takes family photos, or a wedding photographer, or maybe hiring your cousin who happens to own a DSLR camera and just got into photography as a hobby. I mean, that's not going to suffice. But the thing is, every time I tell people, hey, you need professional photos, what is their go-to? Oh yeah, I have a friend of a friend who can do that. I have a family friend who can do that. My cousin owns a camera. My cousin can do that for me for free. Look, if you want to up-level your career, you need to invest the money on a professional who specializes in the kind of photography that you need. The thing about photography is that when you take a photo of yourself, you're trying to achieve a certain image. There's a certain look, a certain mood, a certain brand, a certain perception that you're aiming for people to have of you. With that, if you just hire some random person to take a photo of you, that's not going to achieve your goal. Images, they convey a certain emotion. I think that's the most important thing. Emotion. Making that lasting first impression on someone, being memorable, requires you to stir some sort of emotion, some sort of attraction, desire in the person looking at your photo to want to give you that opportunity and not someone else. And that's why you really need to find a photographer that specializes in what you're looking to do. So let me give you an example. So I work full-time as an accountant right now. I have a full-time job as an accountant. I have a part-time job as a CFO, right? I am 30 years old and I'm looking to break into the modeling industry. Well, I need photos of myself that don't convey me as an accountant. It's not about me looking like a CFO anymore. I need photos that will communicate that I would be a great model for clothing. So who do I hire? I hire a photographer who specializes in modeling portfolios. So back in April, I decided to compete in a beauty pageant, the East Coast USA beauty pageant, and that beauty pageant required me to submit 2 headshots as part of the application. And so at that point I was like, oh my God, I have to do another photo shoot. I was talking about that in my last video about the celebrity makeup artist and why I learned makeup, right? So I have to do another photo shoot. Okay, what am I gonna do? Shell out another like $500 to $600 just to take 2 photos of myself, headshots, that are for the purpose of a beauty pageant? Like, come on. So I decided that if I'm gonna spend this money anyway, I'm going to hire a photographer who absolutely specializes in a modeling portfolio, and then I'm just going to say 2 of those photos I need him to do are specifically for headshots for a beauty pageant. So that's what I did. I went on Google and I typed specifically like photographers in Boston, nothing else, just that generic photographers in Boston. And then I just opened every single page, opened every single photographer's portfolio that I could find in Google. I don't just do the first 5, open everything. Look at everything in your area, all right? And then I looked through the portfolios. Here's the thing. A lot of them were not a good fit. I saw people who specialized in corporate headshots for LinkedIn. That's not what I needed. I saw wedding photographers. I don't need a wedding photographer. Event photographer. What else? Yeah, family photographer. I need specifically modeling portfolio. There was only one guy who has a website who specializes in specifically modeling. And that is so good. You know why? I'm really busy. I have a really busy schedule. And the worst thing is that I would have to go all the way to New York. There's a lot here in New York. You can find a modeling photographer anywhere, right? But in Boston, it's not very common. It's actually very rare. And I remember specifically when I looked for something like this for a photographer back in 2019, I was looking for a photographer in Boston. This did not exist. So I found this guy. His name's Anthony Grassetti. His photos look like the kind of photos that you would see in a model's portfolio, like on a model's website, for instance, or the kind of photos you would find in a clothing catalog, for instance, or maybe even a magazine. So it has to have that certain look, that aesthetic. If it doesn't have that, if you look at their Instagram, if you look at their website, and it doesn't have the kind of vibe, the aesthetic that you are going for, that photographer is not going to be able to accomplish the thing that you're trying to do, all right? So that's really important. Their past history is going to show you what they can do for you, all right? Don't expect them to like upskill or learn new things just for your shoot. Look at their experience, their results, and go with that. And so I found Anthony Grassetti, and I liked his work, and I booked a session. Right? I booked a session for about 2 weeks before the actual beauty pageant. He gave me the 2 headshots, and then I got a whole set of like 20 professionally taken and retouched photos from Anthony that I could use to apply to modeling agencies. And I was actually so happy with the result. I have nothing but good things to say about Anthony. And then during my time working with Anthony that day, I asked him, I was like, hey, I actually was looking for a photographer back in 2019. I looked at every single portfolio in the greater Boston area, and I didn't find anyone who had your kind of portfolio. In fact, you didn't even exist. At least that's what I think. I don't remember seeing your name. And in fact, he said, yeah, he actually, I think in the last 2 or 3 years, he graduated from Boston University, I think from like some sort of fine art program. And he's been doing photography ever since. So there's a tip. Just because the photographer didn't exist 5 years ago, they might be on the scene now. So always be looking. Another thing I learned from Anthony is that he told me, I told him that I've never modeled before, and he said that I was actually like quite natural in front of the camera. So that's a plus. And I told him that I'm actually quite like insecure. Quite insecure about my height. One thing is my height, the other thing is my age. So I'm 5'3", and I'm thinking that brands are looking for someone who is, wait, let me look at the time. Okay, it's 11:30 right now. I've got an appointment in 30 minutes. I'm thinking like brands are looking for someone who is taller. They wouldn't want me to model their clothes, right? They might have to like shorten the hems just for the clothes to look good on me. And then the other thing was that I'm 30 years old, and maybe I'm just too old to break into this industry, because you go on the internet and you look for advice on whether you can be 30 years old and make it as a model, and people's opinions on the internet all say, oh yeah, they're looking for between 16 to 24. After 25, good luck. Anyway, Anthony shoots for Reebok and New Balance and Puma, because those brands are actually headquartered in Massachusetts. So he has contracts with them. And he told me that it's not about your age, all right? And actually, there is a need for models of all ages in the industry. And then another thing that he told me is he had asked me how much did I expect to earn as a model, how much did I want to make. And I was going to say I'd be happy if I earned even $25 an hour. To my shock, he told me that the models that he works with, they're earning like $200, $250 an hour. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong industry. You know why? A CPA with their master's degree and everything, with years of experience in the field, they are billing at between $200 to $250 an hour. And yet like a model who was born with their looks earns that much, with no skill whatsoever. But then he corrected me. He was like, you do need skill to do modeling. You do need to know your angles. You do need to be able to make facial expressions. And you do need to be professional. You do need to show up on time. You need to have a good attitude. It's a job. It's a job like anything else. It's not just they take anybody who's pretty. You could be pretty, but you could be freaking entitled. He said that there was a model that where there was this brand. They had hired this makeup artist, hairstylist. They even had someone who was like the brand coordinator, who was in charge of like dictating the look. A whole team had created a certain look and hired this model, and they put a lipstick on her. She went to the bathroom before the shoot, but after her makeup was done, she wiped it off and put her own lipstick on and said that her color was better. Safe to say, she was never hired again. So this kind of attitude doesn't fly in the industry. So that was something interesting that I learned from working with him that I thought maybe you might want to know as well. But yeah, like I was just so happy with the photos. And I would say a great photographer, they make you feel comfortable on the camera. They make you feel really at ease. And that's really what it is. Like if you got your cousin to take it for you, you'd probably be stiff. Can you take my photo now? Stiff as like, versus like a photographer this is their expertise. You might be a deer in the headlights and you might freeze up in front of the camera, but they're able to get you to relax. Their job is to make you relax, and their job is to find the best angles and the most flattering lighting for your face. Their job is to make you look so good. All right? So don't waste your money hiring a wedding photographer and family photographers, honestly. You have to view these photos as an investment in your career. Once you invest the money, you might be scared to invest the money now. I'd be happy, I'd be okay paying $2,000, $4,000 for a photo shoot at this point. But I remember very specifically when I was in the beginning of my career, when I was working as an entry-level accountant and I was getting those photos taken, I questioned whether spending $300 on a headshot would be worth it. $300 back then, I was questioning, because I actually had to save for that. it was something I had to budget for and save over the course of 3 months to be able to afford. It wasn't just something I could just like charge it to a card and go like, okay, I could pay it off at the end of the month. No. So it was like something I thought about before taking that action. I have to say, it was one of the best investments I ever made. And look, if you want to up-level your career, I would have to say, you won't regret this. So take the time to look for different photographers in your area. Look at every single portfolio. Find the look that you're going for and book the appointment. And even if that photographer, they happen to be the most expensive photographer in your area, I guarantee you the kind of confidence that you feel from having photos that you are absolutely happy with, so much more worth it than working with a photographer that is cheaper but produces an average or mediocre result. I will say you will regret paying someone who charges less but produces average or mediocre results, because listen, you're going to look at yourself in the picture, you're going to think, my God, I look so bad. Do I really look this bad? Objectively, am I really this bad looking? And that, I feel like, it just tears away at your self-worth, your self-esteem, your self-value, the way you look at yourself, your self-image. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. I have had friends, because my friends know how much I'm into finding the right photographers to achieve my goals. I have had so many friends over the years. They've called me, texted me, and asked me, who did you use for your photographer, for that one or for this one? And I would gladly tell them the name. And more than once, I have to tell you this. Don't make this mistake. Learn from their mistake and don't make this mistake. More than once, they told me that they just used just a random photographer, someone who charged maybe $100, their cousin, their family friend, a wedding photographer, a family photographer, whatever. They used this. They didn't want to spend a lot of money. That was their thing. They only wanted to spend about $100. And this is more than one person who came to me with this kind of story. It was the worst money they ever spent. They were not happy with the result. They regretted it. And for them, the $100 is just like money flushing down the toilet. Flushing your money down the toilet, right? Why? Because they hated the photo so much that they've already determined that it's not a usable photo. It's not a photo they would ever want to upload on the internet. It's not a photo that they're proud of showing. It's not a photo that makes them want to show up in this world. So it's a photo that will forever sit in a folder on their computer. All right? So don't waste your money. Do your research on the right photographers, book the appointment, and take that action if you want to upgrade and up-level your career. In my next video, I'm going to talk about how I'm going to go into more details about how photos can really upgrade your confidence, your self-confidence, because I have a few stories of people who did end up taking photos with my husband. My husband took those photos, or I took the photo in one of those. No, in two of those examples, I took the photos. I'm going to share those, share with you about 3 or 4 stories about how good photos will actually change your self-image and the way you see yourself and give you the confidence boost that you never expected you would have. So be on the lookout for that. I will see you next week. Follow me for my journey on breaking into the modeling industry. And this is the 3rd in the series, and the next one will be the 4th. That's it for now. See ya and take care. Bye.